Greeting Moors. This presentation is on intellectual property transfers. What is intellectual property? Intellectual property is a category of property that includes intangible creations of the human intellect. There are many types, such as patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. The law gives people and businesses property rights to the information and intellectual goods they create, usually for a limited period of time. This gives economic incentive for their creation because it allows people to benefit from the information and intellectual goods they create and allows them to protect their ideas and prevent copying. The intellectual nature of intellectual property presents difficulties when compared with traditional property like land or goods. Unlike traditional property, intellectual property is indivisible, cannot be divided, since an unlimited number of people can consume an intellectual good without its being depleted. Copyrights. Copyrights provide authors and creators of original material the exclusive right to use, copy, or duplicate their material. Authors of books have their works copyrighted, as do musical artists, for example. A copyright also states that the original creators can grant anyone authorization through a licensing agreement to use the work. As the authorized representative, the licensing agreement would be a form of contract. Do you know, Moores, who was the creator/grantor of the corporate name that appears on the birth certificate and the Social Security card you have within your possession? It wasn't the corporate state you domicile, it was your mother and father. They never gave the corporate United States consent to create the intellectual property. Islam? A valid and lawful contract must meet the following criteria. This is taken from How to Live in Contracts. A. A contract must show in its preliminary making and construction the clear and substantive offer made by one party and demonstrate the mutual acceptance affirmed by the other party. B. A contract must be producible and exist in evidence upon demand made by either party to the contract, which in itself may be in question, dispute, or controversy. C. A contract must be produced in manifested writing, evidence, and contain the details of the agreements, debts, or promises with all the terms, the obligations, and the conditions which clearly show and serve as proof that a valid and enforceable obligation, promise, or debt exists. D. A contract must be a deliberate and conscious agreement made between competent parties. E. A party to a contract cannot be a minor. F. A contract must be entered into by free will. And G. A contract must not be created under threat, duress, or coercion, lest it be void in law. You can't be compelled by the threats of violence, captivity, detainment, or loss of life. H. A contract must be substantive and germane to the subject matter. I. A contract must be of legal consideration. It cannot be based on an unlawful consideration. J. A contract must possess mutuality of agreement and mutuality of obligation. K. A contract must not be vague, unclear, and uncertain, nor can it contain terms or conditions that are not ascertainable. And lastly, L. A contract must show valid signatures of the parties to the contract instrument in order to verify its validity in law. Note, if a contract fails to satisfy the laws that govern its making or construction, then any such contract is void ab initio, void from the beginning, and is considered dead in the eyes and the view of the law. Every more naturalized, born under the jurisdiction of the United States was converted into intellectual property classified as black persons, etc. Taken from the United States Constitution 14th Amendment, as well as which was a legislative act of the corporate state for all stateless persons. Since this property was manifested through the will of your mother and father, you have the right, the sole right and authority to transfer it with you back to Morocco through nationality. See the Treaty of Madrid, Rights and Protections in Morocco, Article 15, as well as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1836, Article 22 for more details. How is my property transferred from one jurisdiction to another, you ask? When you give your oath and allegiance to a Moroccan state, you will also be asked to transfer all property holdings and investments to the state. The state becomes the first lien holder, so no other claims can be made over the Moroccan state. This is the protection and the security that nationality and statehood provides its people. Your intellectual property and all other property under it becomes the subject of Morocco through the Moroccan state you nationalize through. And it, your property, is protected through your constitution. Your intellectual property will be placed on the protected persons list of the state, so no other foreign entities can assume jurisdiction or authority over your estate. What happens when a company or jurisdiction does not honor or recognize, which everybody loves to use, my state's jurisdiction? Call the office of the Mufti and assist the Consul General with all of the necessary information to start an incident report. Do not engage the violators. This concludes the presentation on intellectual property. And as always, peace and love. Welcome home, Moors.